What started off as a journey to make money and provide for my family has evolved into a purpose with a passion. I quickly realized that the real value is not in the cars that I sell or the money I can make. The real assets are my clients. And the ultimate value that I find is in the relationships that I'm able to create. This is Vet Adventures, and together, we all win.
My point of view is people are the most important thing.
You were a great sport, man. You were awesome.
Your word is more important than any written piece of paper.
You always want to be a person that can dream and imagine and believe that you can be.
Do what you love to do.
It's a calling, it's not a job. You know how to put the work down.
Welcome everybody, my name is Jesse Pieloch. I'm the owner of Vet Adventures, and today we are here in Melbourne, Florida at the American Muscle Car Museum, which is home to over 450 cars, all owned by one of my top clients and dear friend, Mr. Mark Pieloch. Mark, appreciate you being here today. And
Great to see you, Jesse.
Likewise. Over the course of the last 7 years, Mark and I have done 27 business transactions across exotic cars and high-end real estate, and accumulating in almost $20 million worth of sales. The American Muscle Car Museum is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The museum is not open to the general public. However, over the course of every year, Mr. Pieloch opens these doors to host a variety of charity events to support local charities, which raises over $2 million a year to support those local charities. Mark has been in business for over 33 years and is a self-made billionaire and comes from a background of pet pharmaceuticals where he has built and sold multiple 7- to 9-figure companies. Mark, appreciate you being here today. And
Great to see you, Jesse.
Likewise.
You.
Thank you for taking the time to allow me to do this interview with you. Doing interviews with my clients has been a big passion project of mine for several years now. And one of the things that I accredit a lot of my success to is the fact that I truly value the relationship that I am able to form with the client, because I understand the value that individuals such as yourself are able to provide for me throughout my entrepreneurship career and on my journey to success and hopefully to create something big. Over the course of the years, you have obviously been through a lot. You've accumulated a wealth of knowledge and experience and wisdom throughout your business career, and you've been kind enough to share that wisdom with me and position me by giving me opportunities to succeed within real estate and cars. So I first and foremost want to say I genuinely appreciate that and thank you for those opportunities.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And with having the opportunity to form these relationships with highly successful people, I feel it's my responsibility to extract the information and the wisdom that I'm able to accumulate over the years as I foster these relationships and turn around and share them with the people who I care about, my peer groups, and hopefully impact and inspire the ones who want to chase their dreams and accumulate a wealth of success over their years. So with that being said, I look forward to this interview and giving you the opportunity to, tell your raw truth on what it takes to be successful in life and in business and how you've been able to get to where it is that you are today in life. Okay. So I appreciate the time. With that being said, first and foremost, let's address your incredible car museum here and the insane car collection that you've been able to accumulate over your years. Has this always been something that you've visualized as you grew up, or did you always know that you wanted to be this level of a car collector?
Well, growing up as a kid, I can start off by saying I always loved cars. Ever since I was a little kid, 2 years old, I used to play with my old Tonka trunk out in the sandbox and had my little cars that people gave you. And then by the time I was 5 years old, I discovered there was Matchbox cars. And back then you could buy a Matchbox car for 50 cents, 49 cents plus a penny sales tax. And so way back then, I used to have to do weekly chores. We grew up in a standard middle-class family. There was a mom and dad, 5 kids, And if you wanted allowance money, you had to work for it. You know, that horrible 4-letter word, W-O-R-K, okay? And actually that word is the secret to success in life, W-O-R-K, that's my Boston accent, but you gotta be willing to work. So I used to do my work, do my chores, and I'd get my 50 cents. Every Saturday I'd get my allowance, and then I'd walk up to Goodnoe Pearson's about a mile away, small town, 20,000 people. Nobody worried about a kid getting stolen or kidnapped back then. You'd walk up on your own, and I'd go and I'd buy a new Matchbox car. And before you know it, I had about 10 Matchboxes and 20 Matchboxes. And man, I started having so many Matchbox cars, I had to buy like a box to put them in, you know what I mean? And then next thing you know, I just kept collecting Matchbox cars for the next several years. And by the time I quit collecting them, I had over 200 Matchbox cars. Of course, you know, you get older, you're playing ball and everything like that, and your Matchbox cars you long ago forgot about. Well, speed ahead. 15 years old, I started restoring cars. My brother Dexter was big into cars. Okay, I had an uncle who had a bunch of junkyards and dealerships, and so I got into restoring automobiles and restored my first car, and then I did my second car, and my third, and my fourth, and my fifth, and by the time I got out of college, I had 6 old cars restored. Beautiful cars, a couple Mustangs, old Mustangs, 55 Chevy, 57 Chevy, just beautiful cars, loved working on them. Worked with all my friends, of course, on our vehicles. And then by the time I was 30 years old, I had 12 cars. And geez, I needed a building to put them in. You know, kind of like I used to have to get that box for my Matchbox cars. I got 12 old cars now. I need a place. I can't pack them at home. I gotta get a building. And so by the time I was 40 years old, I had, you know, 50 cars, and I just kept going. And I thought, you know, once I hit about 40, I go, you know, I had 200 plus Matchbox cars. I wonder if someday I'll ever get up to 200 cars or whatever. Well, today I'm at 450 plus vehicles, so I did equal and exceed my Matchbox collection.
That's incredible.
Of course, these take a little more room to store than 200, quote, Matchbox cars, but hey, if you're willing to work, anything is possible in this country.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's truly incredible. Would you say that, you know, you kind of manifested this car collection by based off of like putting your mindset in that atmosphere of like seeing the cars in a small size and then building a collection and then putting them in a box and then kind of like foreshadowing or, you know, forecasting like what's to come in a sense?
I've always loved automobiles, and there was different cars I really wanted to collect.
Yeah.
So, you know, I always have cars I drive. People go, oh man, how can you not drive that car? Oh, how can you not drive that car? Well, I have a good dozen vehicles I drive. You know, I love driving certain vehicles, but there's other cars that, you know, I want to save and preserve them. So the collection has evolved through the years. Today we have over 280 vehicles here that have less than 100 original miles. So I really love original vehicles, and I love rare color combinations. So as you go around the American Muscle Car Museum, you're going to see so many unique colors. Let's face it, there's a lot of car collectors, they like white.
Right.
There's a lot of guys, they only like black. Okay, every car they own is black. Okay, you know, the guy will tell me, hey, I got a Mercedes, I got a BMW, and I got a Ferrari. And they're all black, right? How did you know? Okay. Well, when was the last time you bought a car that wasn't black? About 27 years ago.
Yeah,
okay, yeah. I rest my case.
Right, right.
So no, I love the diversity, love the different colors. And it's the American Muscle Car Museum. And I do it strictly for charity. I don't do it to make a profit. I'm not a dealer. We have over 30,000 people a year come through the doors. The biggest event we have every year is our free Veterans Day open house. Last year we had about 4,500 people come through. If you're a veteran or active duty military, you and your direct family members can come in for free. We have food, drinks, beer, wine, you name it, all for free.
Yeah.
And so the beauty of these cars is they're here for people to come observe them, see them, photograph in them, get rides in them. And I can tell you that when we do VIP fundraising events and we get people into these old cars and give them rides or actually get them behind the wheel, people just light up. You'll be amazed at the smiles that people get. Because let's face it, most people today have never driven a car from the 50s, 60s, or 70s. Everybody here, I can tell you, except for me, wasn't even born in the 50s,
right.
60s, and 70s,
right.
you know. So it's truly a different experience. It's something to really enjoy.
Yeah, I totally agree. I know you've had me and my family over here and given my daughters rides in Porsches and American muscle cars, and it's truly an incredible experience. And you know, I know the community is extremely grateful to have this car collection here and this museum here, where you open the doors and you know allow the charity events to be here to help raise that money. So that's incredibly you know awesome that you do that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So before we get into like the main interview, I kind of want to set the record and allow people to kind of see like what your resume is and what you've been able to, you know, I guess I'll just ask these questions for you. So
Okay.
we'll just fire them off. So you kind of already answered this, but did you come from money?
No, actually I came from a standard middle-class American family. My dad, you know, got out of the war, went to work for General Electric, worked his whole life for a big corporation. My mom, of course, was a nurse. She got out of the war, basically started raising a family. You know, back in the day when the GIs came back from World War II, nobody was interested in old cars. Nobody was interested in old planes, okay? Everybody wanted to get married, start having kids, get a home, get a new car, okay, live the American dream.
Right.
And so there was 5 of us kids. I was the last kid born. I was born in 1957. You know, everybody says the first kids have it the best, the last kids have it the best. Well, you know, we all grew up in a household.
Right.
You know, you all had hand-me-down stuff, okay? The first kid, of course, never gets the hand-me-downs. Last kid born, you get your hand-down bicycle, which then became your tricycle, which was your bicycle, which became, you name it, everything was a hand-me-down. But that being said, you know, you worked, everybody had chores at our household. You know, we did get allowance. We were not born with a silver spoon. You know, my folks were very simple. When you got to be 16 years old, you know, we'll give you an old vehicle that we bought brand new. My first vehicle is a 1967 Ford Ranch wagon with 130,000 miles on it. Of course, it had no resale value. Was given that, and they said, hey, you maintain it, you pay the insurance, it's your vehicle.
Yeah.
So I didn't get no new Corvette, okay? I didn't get no new Porsche or anything. And I was happy, let's face it, between walking and riding a bicycle. If you had a vehicle that ran, okay, that kept you out of the rain and the snow, man, you were happy as could be.
Yeah.
And so all of us kids started off with hand-me-down vehicles from my folks. And it served us right. You know, I never bought a new vehicle till I was 35 years old.
Really?
And people go ahead and they go, really? That long? 35? Shit. By the time I'm 35, a lot of these people have had 5 new vehicles
Right,
already.
right.
Okay, well, and the first vehicle I ever bought new was actually a new vehicle, 4-door vehicle for my wife. Because you had one kid already, you had another one coming,
Yeah.
and that S10 2-door Blazer just wasn't going to cut 2 car seats in the back that
Right,
easily.
right.
So
For sure.
my wife negotiated with me, and the Corvette I had disappeared, and the, quote, 4-door Ford Taurus appeared.
Yeah. Need that 4-door for the kids.
Yeah.
How old were you when you started your first company?
First company I actually started when I was 32 years old.
32.
And actually, I thought originally I was going to work for corporate America like my dad was. My dad worked his whole life for General Electric, and I thought I would do the same thing, but in the pharmaceutical industry. The problem is when I got out of graduate school in the first 7 years, the 2 companies I worked for, I was bought, sold, and merged. And that was in the 1980s, and I said, you know, the ability for you to work your whole life for one corporation, that's not going to be possible. Corporations today, they're too much bottom line driven. Everything is about the dollar. And so they don't care about people, okay? And people are just a disposable item. They're just a number. And it's sad because in American corporations today, you don't have the honesty and integrity that used to exist, okay? A person's word, you could count on it, okay? Today, big corporations are extremely unethical, okay? They're very corrupt, okay? Everybody who works for those corporations mostly, and I'm not going to say everybody, but I'm going to say at least 90%, it's all about me, 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 me.
Yeah.
And nothing about anybody else. And that's what's negative about American industry today. The other thing that's negative about industry today is that as my companies started and grew, I shared with my employees, okay? I gave great bonuses. I just had an employee retire from me, and he says, you know, he says, I never put any of my own money aside, but what you gave in bonuses and SEP retirement, simplified employee pension, retirement contributions, over 20 years, I'm retiring a multimillionaire.
It's incredible.
Okay, and so I believe in giving to my employees. I think with any business, I know corporations will say the financials are the most important thing. My point of view is people are the most important thing. I've had employees that have worked for me for years and years and years, okay? Why? Well, I pay them good. I treat them like I'd like to be treated. And if you do that, you have people that work with you for 15, 20 years until they get to be 62 or 65, and then they decide to retire. And I go, man, what do you want to retire at 65 for? Don't you love this job? Yeah, I know, but I do want to have some extra free time, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so that's how I got started in business. One company led to 2, led to 3, led to 4. And some of those companies I owned 100%, and some of those companies I was partners in. I either owned 75, 60, or 50-50. And what I did is I partnered with what I called corporate castaways. Starting back in the 1990s, a lot of corporations started looking and saying, you know what? Once you get to be about 50 years old or 20 years of service with the company, we want to get rid of you because there's a higher cost of your health insurance, and your pension is going to start costing us more money. So corporations deliberately pushed predominantly white males out of the corporation, okay? And by doing that, you had people who had often 25, 30 years of experience, were too young to really retire because they were 50, 55 years old, but had a wealth of knowledge. They had a lot of wisdom. So I partnered with those people to start companies.
Smart.
And so I used their knowledge, okay? I provided the capital because my companies that I had started on my own were successful. We tried to house the operation initially within my existing facilities to minimize overhead. And as those companies grew, those companies all were eventually sold off because if they started the company with me at 52 or 55, let's face it, their horizon to work is 10, 12 years. And so they grew the company, and after 10 or 12 years, they said, hey, it's time for me to look to sell. I says, hey, if you can sell the company and get X amount of money, go for it. And they did.
Even with your ownership?
Even with my ownership, yes.
You gave approval to sell the company?
Yes.
How many companies have you built and sold?
6 companies.
6 companies?
6 companies.
Could you share with us like the range of value from low to high on the
values
sales?
would be from a few $1 million to hundreds of millions of dollars.
Incredible.
And so, you know, the beauty of growing a business is, for myself, has always been, let's look long term, okay? I know most American corporations today are so driven by this quarter's results, year-end results. I've always did everything with a long-term perspective. I'm looking 5, 10 years down the road. And if you can take that long-term perspective, you actually can make a lot more money than if you have that short-term perspective.
Yeah, I've been able to, that's one of the things that I've learned from you. Watching you and what you do, you're extremely calculated. You're one of the most savvy business, people that I know, and I love watching you and the way that you move. I like to tell people that you play real life Monopoly.
Yeah.
And
I used to do real good at the board game also.
I mean,
you want to get that Monopoly?
Yeah.
Hey,
it's truly incredible.
It's like you can't get past me one way or the other. It's going to cost you some money.
Yeah. The moves, I've been able to learn this. You know, the moves that you make today, you know, are for 4 to 5 years down the road, and you're totally okay with taking the daily steps and actions that are necessary to make that vision come to fruition 4 to 5 years down the road. Like, it is a long game with you. How's patience? Where did you learn, like, your patience? Because a lot of people want things now, you know.
I would say my patience came pretty much from my dad. My dad was always very patient, okay? My mother had a hot temper, okay? And we experienced her hot temper as a kid. Okay, so my mom had a little bit of Irish in her, and she really showed her Irish. Okay, she'd have a hot temper. My mom never drank a day in her life. Okay, so she didn't like Irish whiskey or Irish beer, but she had an Irish temper.
Okay.
And but that being said, my dad was very patient, and I think if you looked at his career for all the years at GE, he got to climb the ranks where he did by being patient. By, you know, hey, you want to work in the company, after 10 years, we got a promotion for you, but you got to move. Oh, we moved us from Massachusetts out to Arizona. We lived there for 4 years. Hey, my dad's name was John. We got another promotion for you. It's back in Massachusetts. My dad was, hey, great, that's where I was born. We'll move back to Massachusetts. Okay, my brother Dexter, who at that time was in high school, loved baseball. Arizona was a great state for baseball. And he's like, shit, the quality of baseball players in Arizona is so far greater than anybody in New England. Because let's face it, in Arizona, they were playing baseball
24/7.
12 months a year.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's probably why eventually he became, you know, a minor league player. Okay, so he loved baseball. But we moved back to Massachusetts. We were back in Massachusetts for 4 years. We got another job for you, John. That's going to be out in Montana. Pack up the family. Let's move to Montana. Out there a few years. Hey, John, we got another job for you. Move back to Massachusetts. So my dad was always very patient, you know what I mean? Even when he got the promotion or whatever, he would go ahead. Us kids would stay behind to the end of the school year. Like my mom always said, hey, we're not going to disrupt the kids in the middle of the school year. When they get done the school year, we'll move.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. And so the patience really came from my dad. My dad also, as his main hobby, he loved fishing. And, you know, like they say, a bad day of fishing is still better than a good day at work, okay?
For sure.
My dad loved to go fishing, and fishing is an activity that you have to be patient.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't care if you're casting or you're fly fishing or whatever, it's patience.
Right.
Okay, you're not going to instantaneously catch a fish every cast.
For sure.
And so I think the patience really came from my dad's side of the family.
Awesome. It sounds like your dad had a big impact on your life and your upbringing. Who would you give credit to who instilled the work ethic that you have growing up? And did you have any mentors or people that inspired you to, you know, be successful?
I would say if I had to look back at my years, the people that gave me the greatest impact, of course, would be your parents, your mom and your dad, my Uncle Joe, my Uncle Eber, and probably another 4 or 5 close family members. All of them kind of instilled, you know, you have to be willing to work, okay? It doesn't mean you have to be well educated to be successful in life. My mom and her brothers and sisters, their parents died in a fire. All the kids were passed out to families back then in the Great Depression that couldn't have children. Today, that's not an issue because of modern technology. But back then, there was a lot of couples that couldn't have kids. So the 8 kids were all passed out to different families. And my Uncle Eber, okay, who's my mother's brother, Eber was a 5th grade dropout. His parents died when he was in 5th grade. He had to go to work, okay? Who cares about child labor laws? You got to work, okay? And Eber, okay, never got a GED, never went beyond 5th grade.
Yeah.
By the time, you know, I graduated college in 1979 for my first degree, Eber was worth about $15 million.
Wow.
Okay.
5th grade education.
You know, 5th grade education. But Eber had one thing going for him, and like all my folks and my uncles and everybody preached, is you got to be willing to work. W-O-R-K.
Yeah.
And Eber started off working in a junkyard. And then he knew a guy, Gaboose, who had the scrap metal business. And my Uncle Eber said, man, there's money in junk, okay? There's money in scrap metal. And so he went from working for the guy to starting his own junkyard, to having 2 junkyards, 3 junkyards. And then eventually he ended up growing into trucking line, used car lots, and new car dealerships. And so Eber was always willing to work, okay? There was no such thing as you were off on Saturday or Sunday. Yeah. He wasn't a government worker. Oh, it's 8 o'clock, I start work. Oh, I leave work, it's 4:30. Whatever it takes, you got to do the job.
Yeah. What would be your definition of entrepreneurship? I mean, you kind of explained it a lot. It's work. There's no clocking in, there's no clocking out. But like, what has been your journey like through entrepreneurship, and like, what have been some of the biggest lessons that you've learned that have helped you to get to that next level in your career?
For entrepreneurship, I would say I'll summarize it by telling a short story. When my sister graduated from college, my Uncle Eber only had 2 sons. He never had a daughter. He always wanted to have a daughter. He gave my sister a brand new 1978 Corvette Pace car. Okay, at that time, that was the first real car that sold way above sticker price. They were selling for $25,000, $30,000. And the sticker price was about, $14,000, $15,000. And so when I graduated college, we had a cookout at my folks' house. Eber came and people, gave me a bunch of high school, graduation presents and college graduation presents, and like you do when you have a graduation. And my mom turned to Eber, which was her brother, younger brother by a couple of years, and said, "Hey, Eber, so what did you get Mark for his college graduation present?" And Eber goes, "Nothing, nothing. I didn't get him nothing." Okay. Well, my mom says, "Eber, don't get me mad. I have a temper. You need to give him something." Okay, well, Eber said he got his present years ago. Okay, well, way back in 1963, when we moved back from Arizona, okay, we went to his junkyard, and my mom would go visit him, and Eber, being in the junkyard business, okay, let's face it, back then it was an all-cash business. Maybe you'd take a check from somebody. There was no such thing as a debit card, Visa card. That didn't exist, okay? So we went there for Easter. We went to church, went to his place at Easter. Everybody's all dressed up in their new Easter outfit. Eber sees my sister Lisa. Oh, wow, she's 2 years older than me. She's 7 years older. That's such a cute outfit. Hey, you got your little Easter basket. He opens up this big wad of money. Here, let me give you $5 as an Easter present. And for me, $5, that's 10 Matchbox cars. My mind was doing the math already. 10 Matchbox cars. So my mom turned around and says, "Now, Eber, you need to give, Judd was my nickname. You need to give Judd, because my middle name is Judson, you need to give Judd the same $5. Eber goes, "I'm not going to give him nothing." Okay? That's how Eber was. And my mom says, "Eber, don't get me upset. You give him $5. So Eber pulled out $5, and I was a lot shorter then, okay? And he held up that $5, okay? Now I got to paint the scenario. It's a March day in New England. There's fresh snow on the ground. It's muddy. It's melting. There's a 30-mile-per-hour wind blowing with 40-mile-per-hour gusts. He pulled out that $5, and Eber also had broke his leg, and he's on a one-arm crutch, okay? So he holds that $5 out, and he dances it around. "If you can get it, it's yours. If you can get it, it's yours. If you can get it, it's yours. Ha, 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 ha." And I was trying to jump and trying to jump. Couldn't get it. Well, patience. You mentioned that word, patience. Yeah. So next thing, Eber's still talking to my mom and dad. His wife comes out of the house. "Oh, hey, good to see you, Hazel. Good to see you, John. Oh, hey, happy Easter." Oh, so it comes down. Eber's talking. Both couples are going at it. And my patience paid off. Eber relaxed. He had his crutch, and he had that huge wad of money. I ran as quick as I could, grab that wad of money, and I ran about 20 feet away from him, and I go, "Hey, I got your money, I got your money."
He said,
okay?
"You get it, it's yours."
Eber was pissed. "You give me that money. I'll give you the money if you can catch me." Okay? I started running circles around him. Okay? I started taking bills off that. I didn't have the value of what money was. I was just throwing them up in the air. Eba tries to chase me in his crutch, falls down in the mud, gets up, yelling and swearing at me. I just take off, run off out in his junkyard. Now, his junkyard was huge. It was a quarter-mile wide, half-mile deep. So I just took off with that water money.
My goodness.
Okay? Eba said to me, coming back to the story, you got your college graduation present in 1963. He said, I had over $12,000 in that wad of money, and you lost me over $9,000 that we never found.
Mm-hmm.
I could have bought 2 brand new Corvettes back then for the price that you cost me.
Mm-hmm.
I said, Eba, if you would have just gave me the $5, you wouldn't have lost the 9,000 plus.
Yeah.
Okay? So Eba said, you know what? I'm going to give you something more valuable than that brand new Corvette. So I'm going to give you some advice. Okay? He said, you can become a doctor like my sister. You can become a dentist, a lawyer, a pharmacist. You can become whatever you want from a college education point of view. But when you go to work for somebody else, you're making the other guy rich. The day you work for yourself, either sky's the limit or you're going to hit rock bottom. Okay? So he says, you're a smart guy. You go work in that drug industry. And he says, any company does certain things really well and they do other things poorly. You go work in the drug industry and you find out what they do really well and you find out what they do poorly. And if you can solve their problem and what they do poorly, you can get rich.
Yeah.
Okay? So his advice turned out to be well worth more than a 1978 Corvette pace car.
Absolutely.
Okay? And so that advice is true with anybody.
Yeah.
Okay? And so that's kind of a person who had a big influence on starting a business, because I can tell you my mom and dad never did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But Eba was very successful being a 5th grade dropout.
Yeah. So that advice really stuck with you as you went through life, went through college. How did you decide to, enter into the pet pharmaceutical industry? I know you got your college degree in pharmacy. You became a licensed pharmacist. What led you to do pet pharmaceuticals?
Well, when I worked as a pharmacy intern and then eventually a licensed, registered pharmacist, and then I keep going on to graduate school to get some advanced degrees, I always worked. I worked all the way through school. My folks undergrad would pay for our tuition, boardroom, and books. Anything else you had to work, make your own money. Graduate school, you were 100% on your own. You had to pay everything, okay? Or take out student loans, which I did, and I paid them off as soon as I graduated. Guess that's un-American today. You take out a student loan, you don't have to pay it back. Well, I did, okay? And I prided myself in paying it off right away. I worked 2 jobs to do it. But that being said, when you look at your education, being a pharmacist, working part-time, I started seeing in the 1980s more and more people coming in with prescriptions for their dogs. And I go, let's face it, dogs are mammals just like people are. Almost any drug that anybody ever takes in the world today has long been tested in dogs. That's where they do a lot of initial work, is in dogs. And because we have very similar physiology and pharmacology of drugs in dogs to people. And so the biggest complaint that the people would come in, and they were usually, let's face it, the average person coming into a vet clinic or a pharmacy today is female, between the ages of 30 to 50 years of age, 55 years of age, and they're getting their medicine. And the medicine that you would get for the dog is like, what can I do to administer that product to the dog? Well, you can take a piece of bread, put some peanut butter on it, stick the capsule in the peanut butter. Oh, maybe you can take a piece of cheese, soft cheese, those individual slices, roll it up, give it to the cheese, okay? And I saw by the late 80s, it's like, there's really a need to make palatable, chewable tablets for medicine. because you can force a person to take a medicine, okay? Hey, I know it tastes horrible, Jesse, you need to take it. Okay, my wife said, you got to take it. Ooh, I know it tastes horrible, I'll drink something down. But you can't make a dog do that or a cat do that. So I was like, well, like Michael said, find out what they do real well and find out what they don't do. Well, they don't do well to make palatable, chewable tablets. So I got into that line of work, started with one nutritional supplement company, and really raised the bar. Palatability used to be 70% acceptance. Oh man, that's great. Okay, that's like saying, hey, a modern high-performance car back in the 1930s could hit 100 miles per hour.
Yeah.
Man, that's super fast. Today you can go to Toyota, I'm not picking on Toyota, but you can go to Toyota, pick any vehicle on their lot, and it'll go 100 miles an hour, okay? Yeah. So I raised the bar that said, no, palatability acceptance is not 70%. It has to be more like 90, 95%. And also what I noticed is that the pets were living longer. When I was a kid growing up, we used to have dogs. When a dog got to be 6, 7 years old, would get a limp, your folks would say, oh, we gave it away to somebody at the farm, okay? What started happening in the late 80s is as the baby boomers left their households, the parents were there, and they had a dog, and that dog was their new family member. I know more guys that have discussions with their dog than they ever do their wife, okay?
Probably facts.
That the dog knows more information about the guy and what's bothering him than the wife will, even if she's been married to him for 30 years.
Yeah.
Okay? So there's true bonding there. Like they say, you know, a dog is man's best friend.
Absolutely.
And so what happened is you started keeping these dogs longer and longer. They need daily medication. They start getting diabetes. Maybe I've been giving them too many treats. I guess I shouldn't always get him an ice cream cone every other day. It's hot here in Florida. Hey, he loves the ice cream, okay? Or, you know, he gets arthritis. You know, man, geez, I got that shoulder. Oh, I hurt that way back in high school, whatever, you know what I mean? Well, that dog's the same way. Yeah, I know when he went leaping for that Frisbee that time and he fell off the wall, you know, he's a little sore now. Got to give him some arthritis medicine. Yeah. And so creating something that you could commercialize on a worldwide basis. Yeah. And when I tell people, I says, you know, I only make a penny per chewable tablet, okay? And let's face it, today there's a lot of competition in that world. But at one time, we were 30% of the world's chewable tablets, okay, that we sold the flavor to or made the product. And I tell people, you know, I see a penny on the ground today, and my mom always would say, hey, you see a penny on the ground, you want to pick it up, it's good luck penny. And even today, even though I'm worth, you know, tons of money, I see a penny on the ground, I still stop and pick it up.
Same.
And I put it in my good luck penny area, okay? Nice. Because everything you see here today came 1 penny at a time.
I like that.
1 penny at a time.
Yeah.
So when somebody tells me a penny isn't worth anything, well, pennies do add up.
Yeah, starting with your Matchbox collection, 50 cents, 50 pennies, you know, it definitely adds up.
If you get 50 million dogs at a penny,
it's a lot of money.
it adds up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
you obviously were a pioneer in your industry, probably with
correct.
The chewable tablets. Do you
and
own
soft chews?
You see soft chews. Do you own patents currently?
Yes, I have patents. And part of the science, like in any industry, certain things you cannot patent that you want to keep trade secret. And then things that you can patent, yes, you do want to patent.
Gotcha.
And so the combination of those two have created the wealth. And also, most of my wealth has come from physically working and making product. In other words, so many companies today, they never make a profit. They have this great valuation because it's the hottest thing right now, and they sell their company and they take their money quick and they're gone, okay? I'm the old-fashioned school. I believe that before I sell the company, I want to be running that company 10, 15, 20, 30 years and just keep ringing the cash register. I'm not greedy. I'm not trying to make a killing.
Yeah.
But as long as that register just keeps cling, 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 it adds up.
Right. Right.
And your tax bill adds up. Cling, cling,
That's for
cling.
sure.
Because the more the clings happen, the
Yeah.
more the government's there with the other hand saying, excuse me,
Sam."
sir, we need 40 cents on every dollar that you're making.
Yeah.
Okay, well, as long as you let me keep 60.
Yeah. For
Now
sure.
you switch that number around, I'm not working anymore.
Yeah, you're out. Yeah.
Yeah, if I'm working for you instead of
Yeah.
me working for myself, that's a whole nother ballgame.
Right, for sure. Let's talk about investments. You know, I've known you now for 7 years, and you're a big advocate for investing in raw land. You know, what is it about raw land that you really love, to invest your money in?
The beauty of raw land, again, comes from experience. As a kid, we lived in, like I said, Massachusetts, Arizona, Montana. When we lived there back in 1959, land in Scottsdale, Arizona was $10 an acre. If you wanted to go out to the sticks out in Chandler, it was $3 an acre. When we lived in Montana, you could buy land for 20 bucks an acre. That was in the 60s, late 60s. Everywhere that we lived, my mom never wanted to buy land. My dad was like, hey, you should buy some land, you should buy some land. My mom was like, no, I'll invest money in the stock market. And stock market, you make money, you lose money, but long term, you don't really make that much money, okay? I've always said that the real money being made on Wall Street is made by the insiders. And by the time they tell John Q. Public to go buy it, the serious money has already been made.
Right.
Okay, you're chasing the last 10 cents of the money. Okay, so that being said, seeing in my lifetime how land has appreciated at a very young age, I was like, you know what? The beauty of raw land is it's something that if you buy, it doesn't take a lot of money to maintain. Low property taxes. If there's trees on it, grass on it, weeds on it, hey, it doesn't take much to maintain it. And so when I originally moved to Nebraska back in 1985, I had an acre of land in Massachusetts that had gone from being, $5,000–6,000 to $40,000 an acre.
Wow.
And I go, wow, that's crazy amount of appreciation. Well, I think I'm going to sell that land because I can buy farm ground out here in Nebraska. That was when they had Farm Aid going on and Willie Nelson and everybody's going around with all the farm bankruptcy. You could buy farm ground for $400 an acre. Now that was a great buy, $400. Most farm ground was $600, $700, $800 an acre. And I asked people out there, well, geez, what is farm ground? What did it peak at? Oh, it peaked back in about 1980 at about, depending, $2,000 to $2,500 an acre. $2,000, $2,500 an acre. It's now down to $400. Shit, I'm going to buy 100 acres of farm ground. Okay, which I did. I ended up owning that land for a total of, let's see here, 22 years. I sold it for $4,000 an acre.
Wow.
10x.
10x.
And I did a 1031 exchange on it, so I didn't have to pay any tax.
Incredible.
Okay. I turned around, took that money, bought land in Wyoming, in the Black Hills, Wyoming, for $725 an acre. I've owned that land now for 13 years, and it's gone up fivefold.
Wow.
Okay. And property out in Colorado, Montana, Wyoming, if you keep ag status on it or have cattle on the ranch, you pay virtually nothing for real estate taxes. So, for property taxes. So, I would say for every $100 million in real estate you have out there, you probably pay $15,000 a year in property tax.
Wow.
Now I said $100 million in real estate.
Extremely.
Okay.
Extremely low.
I can tell you in Florida, my oceanfront lots, for every million in valuation, you pay about $18,000
Right.
on 1 million in valuation. Out there,
Yeah.
there's virtually no holding cost.
Yeah.
And you're still getting rental income from the cattle operation.
Right. Smart. How many acres would you say of raw land do you own?
Currently, I have about 70,000 deeded acres.
Wow.
So I've always bought the land. I don't typically ever sell.
Yeah.
Just like my automobiles, I tell people this is a hobby.
Yeah.
And people go, well, you got a couple $100 million here in cars. I go, yeah, that's true, but it's a hobby.
Yeah.
You know, some people like the golf, okay? Some people, you know, spend money on private jets or yachts or whatever. I always kid people. I go, you know, they go, you got to get a private jet. I go, I don't need a private jet. I says, I have friends that have private jets, okay?
That's right.
And they go, man, you got to buy a big boat. And I go, well, I can tell you, boats are a lot of work, a huge expense, okay? And I have friends that have boats,
Yeah,
okay? So from my point of view, like somebody invites me to go boating or take me on their yacht or whatever, hey, what do you want me to bring? I'll bring anything you want, okay? For food, drinks, whatever, no problem. Because I can tell you that that 165-foot yacht costs a hell of a lot more than whatever I bring for champagne and cheese and crackers.
Very true. Very
okay?
true. Very true. What obviously you've done tons of transactions, you know, probably thousands of real estate deals. What's some advice you can give to people on, you know, negotiating deals?
I would say if you're going to negotiate a deal, negotiate areas that you're knowledgeable on. So if you don't have the knowledge skills, you need to find somebody who will have those skills and pay that person for the expertise. So in other words, if you're going to buy a rare automobile, before you spend whatever amount of money that is, quote, a small fortune to you, $100,000, $500,000, $1 million, whatever the case may be, if you do not know how to check out that vehicle and authenticate that vehicle, then you need to spend some money to hire somebody to go and authenticate that vehicle, okay? Because I've heard too many horror stories in the classic car market, in the real estate market, people buying property that said, yeah, this is my lot and this is my beautiful view. Sorry, that's my land. Well, where's my lot? Well, you're on the other side of the hill. But wait a minute. My view is horrible.
Yeah. You should have got a survey done.
Yeah, you should have, A, had a survey done. Okay. Actually, surveyors don't charge that much money.
Right.
Okay. And don't believe everything that the salesperson is telling you. Okay. Go check it out. Okay. And you don't ideally want to have the same person selling the property representing you in the transaction.
Right.
Okay. You want to have your own realtor ideally. So you have somebody looking out for your best interests. And still, have a survey done, get title insurance.
Yeah.
Okay, I know a person right now that just bought a property in Montana, spent a lot of money, didn't pay for title insurance. They were going to build their dream home, and now they found out how much money is owed on the land.
And now they're stuck with the bill.
And now they're stuck with the bill.
Yeah. So that's some adversity right there. And you know, you can't not get to your level of success without facing adversity. How do you handle adversity, and you know, how quick do you dwell on it, and you know, your bounce back? You know, like what's the best way?
I would say, how do I deal with adversity? It upsets you, like anybody. But life is a learning process. I'm a person who always makes a decision, right or wrong, okay? I would say in my lifetime, I have made more right decisions than wrong decisions, okay? Am I perfect? Hell no, okay? Make mistakes all the time. My advice is because I've either learned the hard way or I've worked with a person who also had to learn the hard way, okay? So, you know, that being said, whether it be classic cars, let's face it, I'm so much more knowledgeable today than I was when I was a 20-year-old kid, okay? 20-year-old kid, you're learning,
Right.
okay? I can tell you, everybody in the classic car world today, and I've done 12 frame-off restorations by myself, spend the money, buy a rust-free car, okay? Do not buy a rust bucket and think you're going to turn it into that $100,000 beautiful car, okay? You know, there was a reason when we lived out in Arizona, a lot of my dad's friends used to buy old cars from Arizona when they worked at GE and ship them back to Massachusetts. Because when you start with a perfect rust-free body, interior, carpet, that's cheap and easy. When you have a rust bucket that's been eaten away by salt, it's a money pit.
Yeah.
It's a money pit.
Yeah. Understood. What has your faith been like growing up, and you know, do you accredit any of your success to like your faith and a relationship with like a higher power or God or anything like that? Was that
I grew up definitely in a Christian family. I was Protestant. My mom, you know, had us kids go to church and Sunday school till we were in 8th grade. After 8th grade, you know, we could go to church whenever we wanted. I wasn't big at going to church after that, but you'd go for like Easter and Christmas and different events like that. You know, so I came from a Christian background. I think that's more and more lacking in this country today. That so many people, like I said before, they don't care about other people. It's just me, me, me.
Right.
And I believe that always comes back and pays back people, okay? So I always tell people when you have adversity, and I go, well, you know, the Lord works in mysterious ways. And there's a gentleman, I won't mention his name, who works in corporate America, really goes out of his way to, quote, put the screws to anybody he does business with, okay? And he just gloats and takes pride when he can give you a zinger, okay? Well, he recently just got fired, and he's 55 years old, has a couple kids at home, a wife at home, and he's having some trouble finding a job. Well, I can't feel sorry for the guy.
Right.
Okay, his track record speaks for itself. Okay, I've seen other people who were gloating and waiting for their parents to die so they could get this big inheritance. Oh, I don't need to work. I'm just going to wait till my mom dies and I'm set for the rest of my life. Okay, well, and I had a person I knew that they went to the service after the funeral, and the person was toasting, saying, "This is the happiest day of my life."
Yeah.
His mother had just died. "I'm rich now. I'm going to have one hell of a great time." Well, that person's dead now. Okay? So sometimes, like I say,
Yeah.
the Lord works in mysterious ways.
Definitely does. The fact that you put your collection here, that you moved your car collection down from Nebraska to, you know, Melbourne, Florida, out of all places, and I'm not from here originally, you know, I think the Lord works in mysterious ways to bring you and I together, because, you know, we've obviously had a great relationship over the past 7 years, and you know, it's just, I never thought I'd be doing this in this profession, this industry, and what I do today, and, you know, I definitely think it's for a bigger purpose and a higher calling, one that, you know, I think I understand, but every day and every year, you know, I feel like God kind of, you know, opens up new doors for me to like expand that vision and explore that purpose. So that's awesome. To end the interview, which has been a great interview, I asked a couple of my peers via social media, you know, if you had the opportunity to ask a multimillionaire or billionaire one question, you know, what would it be? A lot of people, they're not exposed to success, or, you know, they don't really know the experience or net worth of the individuals that are around them. So I want to give them the opportunity to ask you a question so that it can be answered. So
I always call a spade a spade.
yeah, amen.
So I always answer the question truthfully.
Awesome. So this question comes from Sean Thomas. What are your personal non-negotiable daily tasks?
Non-negotiable daily task. Non-negotiable. Well, my mom taught us kids, as you grow up, you always have to make your bed before you leave.
Okay.
So even if my wife is still sleeping on the other side of the bed, I make my half the bed. Now, if I'm traveling, okay, and I'm at a hotel, I don't make the bed like a hotel makes, but I still rearrange the pillows, I pull the covers up, I always make my bed.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's kind of a small thing, but I definitely do that myself. I don't have a personal assistant. In other words, I still answer emails, I answer phone calls. I know a lot of people would have an assistant that, you never can get a hold of them. You always have, whoever the person is answering their phone or doing their emails. So I still answer my phone, do all my emails, okay? I'm still a real person. Like the old saying is, I still put on my pants one leg at a time,
Right.
okay? I'm not skilled enough that I can jump up, put both, legs through the pants and land and be done putting my pants on, okay? I still got to put them on one leg at a time. So I do everything. I don't mind taking out the trash, okay? I drove home the other day. There's a bunch of palm fronds sitting outside the house. I know the lawn guy was just there on Saturday. He won't be there for another week. Hey, get out of the car, pick it up, go put them in the palm frond pile, whatever.
Yeah.
Nothing phases me. And I'm willing to do any type of job. So as I grew the company, I trained people. I did everybody's work.
It's important.
I did the crappy jobs,
Yeah.
okay? And years ago, it was so funny when I first went to work in a pharmacy intern, okay? The pharmacy I was working at, independent pharmacy, Ray's Pharmacy in Athol, Mass. Alex goes, he says, what we're gonna have you do first of all is they taught me how to ring a register, and then we're gonna have you can go clean the restrooms. Okay, sure. Okay, college kid, I don't care. So I went in there, started cleaning. They weren't the cleanest restrooms in the world. Ladies' room was a lot cleaner than the guys' room. So I came out after about 10, 15 minutes and go, hey, I need some more cleaning supplies. Really, cleaning supplies? Yeah. I said, you want it clean, right? Yeah. Take whatever you need off the shelf. Okay, so I go grab, stuff off the shelf, and I go back there, and after about an hour, I come up front, you know what I mean? And Alex goes, where the hell have you been? I said, well, I've been cleaning the restrooms. He says, it took an hour to clean the restrooms? I says, yeah, go look. He walked back there and he goes, holy shit, this is the cleanest I've ever seen these restrooms. You got everything clean. You got all the tile clean. It looks like you even cleaned the grout and shit. Yeah, that's why I needed a toothbrush. I says, the brush I had, you couldn't get that grout. So, I got that Lysol toilet bowl cleaner and the brush, little toothbrush there, and cleaned all the grout even. Holy shit. Yeah. This is amazing. Okay. Now, a lot of people would say, that's beneath me. Hey, I'm going to be a pharmacist one day. I'm a straight A student. Okay. I'm not going to go clean a restroom. But by cleaning that restroom, that set me in place for the next 5 years working there part-time, first as a pharmacy intern and then as a registered pharmacist, because I'd do anything.
It's important.
Okay.
It's important. Do you think like the way you do one thing is the way you do everything?
Yes.
Yeah.
From my dad's side of the family, my grandfather on my dad's side went to the Prussian Military Academy. And so I never met him. He passed away before I was born. He was extremely strict, My dad said, yes, he was very strict. My Uncle Joe said, oh yeah. He was very, very strict. Okay, you think of the Prussian military, the German army, you follow everything to the T. Yeah. Okay? And so I'm like that. Okay? If you're going to do something, do it once, do it right. Don't give me any excuses.
I like that.
Okay? I have a son right now, my oldest son, Alex. He has his PhD in mathematics. He's teaching at MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology in Cambridge, Mass. Real smart kid, okay? He is like me. He's very tedious, very accurate, very detail-orientated, okay? Those are traits that will carry you for your whole life in anything you do. Yeah. I don't care if you're washing your car. I still wash my cars I drive all the time by hand. People look at me, you don't take it to a detail place to get it detailed? No, I wash it, vacuum it myself, clean it myself. Yeah. Yeah, but you're worth X amount of money. Yeah, I know. I still wash my car like I did my first car.
It's incredible.
Okay? Most people would
Yeah.
say, oh, no way, that's a menial job.
Yeah.
What are you sitting down in your butt cleaning the wheels on that car? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, it's good exercise.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. For sure. That's awesome.
I used to spend hours cleaning mag wheels on old Mustangs or Corvettes. I know it takes a lot of time.
That's awesome.
And the one car I can tell you I hate cleaning wheels on is any British car with wire wheels. Horrible project.
That's terrible. That's terrible. So you have all this time. I mean, you obviously, are very efficient in your time management. Is there a way that you handle your time and like a checklist that you may have every single day that you?
I have a mental checklist every day of what I need to do. And then I also am planning out a month ahead, 2 months ahead, 3 months ahead, even a year ahead. So I'm always thinking about what needs to be done ahead of time.
Smart.
A lot of people don't do that.
Right.
And to be successful in life, you have to first have a plan. And then you got to be able to execute. And so many people, they're great at executing, but they never have a plan.
Yeah.
Other people have great plans, but they can't execute. So you have to have both of those traits.
Yeah.
And when you execute, you want to have to do it only one time.
And
So
if you fail, learn from that mistake and never repeat that mistake again.
And so when I tell people, I see tens of thousands of sheets of paper a year. I touch it once.
Amazing.
I touch it once.
Yeah.
I'm not people that continuously stack stuff on their desk and you can't see the desk.
Yeah.
My work desk is clean every day when I go home. And I also believe that when you go home, you don't bring work with you.
I like that.
And I tell all my people that you work, let's say 7 to 3:30, whatever, I will not call you after hours. I will not email you after hours. I won't text you after hours. But when you're here from 7 to 3:30, I expect you to work.
Right. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. Makes sense.
Too many corporations today, they're texting and calling people at 10, 11 o'clock on Friday, Saturday night. Oh, I need this email still today or tonight or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
No. You need time at work and you need time away from work.
Love that.
And I truly make that differentiation.
That's awesome.
And people say, well, you can't do that in today's competitive world. Well, I'm an example you can.
It's awesome. Love that. You're an example of a lot of things. So it's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Brittany Parverini asked, was it worth it? All the hustle, all the grind, and all the sacrifices?
I would say yes.
Okay.
Because I would say that in life, the pursuit of something is always greater than once you get it.
I love that. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you have to be
Sure.
hungry for the pursuit.
Mm-hmm. It
Okay.
is the pursuit. The bar is constantly getting raised. It's like, if I were to look back 5 years ago and say I am where I am today, I would have been like, wow, that's ecstatic. Like that, I would love that. And now that I'm there, it's like the feeling is not even like relevant to me because I'm looking ahead and where I can be. And so, yeah, I love that. It's definitely the pursuit of the journey and being hungry.
Yeah.
So.
And when I was in college and a pharmacist was making $18,000 a year, today, let's say the average pharmacist nationwide is making probably around $150,000 a year. Mm-hmm. My goal in college was someday I'd like to be able to make 10 times what a normal pharmacist makes per year. So like my goal would be like $180,000 or $188,000, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was a goal. So like my goal, let's say if the average pharmacist today makes $150,000, my life's goal, putting it in today's money would be, man, I'd love to make $1.5 million a year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And of course I've been successful at doing that.
Yeah.
And so the pursuit is so important. That's where you get the motivation and the drive.
Love that. Love that.
And you also want to entertain other ideas. Okay? Too many people today, especially in big corporations, whatever their boss says, the next 3 levels of below them say, yes, I agree, yes, I agree, yes, I agree. I've never wanted people that were yes people.
Yeah.
I go, well, what do you think? Okay. What do you think? Okay. What do you think? I tell them what I think. what do you think if we kind of take, I like Jesse's point here, but I like Deb's point over there. Work together as a team.
Totally agree.
Because all the companies that I've had a team of key employees. And as a team, you're always going to be more successful than an individual.
Totally agree.
Okay? And not to show favoritism, but in this past week, Tom Brady was recognized at Gillette Stadium, and he gave a speech, about a 30-minute speech. And I tell people, even if you're not a New England Patriots fan or a Tom Brady fan, go and listen to Tom Brady's speech, because they retired his number at Gillette Stadium, his number 12. And when you listen to that speech, Tom never mentions I. He mentions we, us, the team. So if you really want to be successful in life, especially in business, you need to have a winning team.
Love that.
It's not just one person.
Right.
It's the team.
For sure. Totally agree. Can't agree with that anymore. Working on building my team.
Teams are important.
Yeah, for sure.
Teams win championships.
For sure, for sure. Last question from my good friend Jonathan Robinson. Is there anything you regret?
What would be one thing I regret? I would say the one thing I would regret is that when I started in business, I was a PhD candidate to get my PhD in pharmaceutics. And I did all my research, started doing my thesis, and never finished my PhD degree. And what it was is the business took off in the early 90s. I was working 30 days out of a 30-day month. My work day started at 6 in the morning and went till 8, 9 o'clock at night. And it came down to, do I want to concentrate on the business or do I want to finish my degree? And at that point, I was married. I had one child born, another child coming with my wife. And so I was kind of like, family is really more important than another sheepskin or another diploma. I already have, 3 diplomas. What's another one? Okay. And so the other thing, as the business grew, when I left corporate America, I was making $60,000 a year. When my business took off, well, within 3 years, I was making over $300,000. Within 4 years, I was making $1 million a year. So I was kind of like, maybe I should take a year off and go back and get my PhD. Well, how much would I make if I had my PhD? Well, I'd probably make $100,000 a year. How much am I making now? $1 million a year. I think working the business is going to be more important than getting another degree.
Right.
And so that would be the one thing I regret not finishing.
Okay. Makes sense. Yeah, so I've talked to other clients your age who have businesses, and they're getting over their business, but they're afraid to sell their business because once they retire and they liquidate, they're not going to know what to do. Like, they have fear of being bored. Is that something that you face or think about? Like,
I would say I agree with what the comment is. I've seen too many people retire, become couch potatoes. They put on 50 or 100 pounds. They have all types of health issues. And then they eventually die, okay? Like a lot of people would say, the longer you work, the longer you live. And so from my point of view, even though I don't work nearly like I used to, okay? And I don't work because I need the money, and I still enjoy working, but find other things to do. So in other words, I have the American Muscle Car Museum. It's a 501c3 nonprofit. So we do about 100 days a year of activities. Am I here for 100 days? Of course not, okay? Am I here for probably 30, 40 days of activities? Yes, definitely. And so find something else that occupies your time. Right. And so for me, it's this activity here. Do I also go hunting? Yes. Do I go fishing some? Yes. I do have a young family, again, so I can tell you that now I spend so much more time with my son, who's only 3 years old, than I did my first kids that all were born. Because, you're always working in a business, and a business is demanding. So, you know, I always saw my kids, you know, soccer games, dance recitals, volleyball, football, you name it, would go to their games, but you didn't have as much quality time. So if you can, you know, if you do retire, sell your business, there's grandkids. I didn't have grandparents to talk to me, but I had uncles that talked to me. And you know, your parents, like a lot of people, your parents tell you something and it goes in one ear and comes out the other. But if your uncle tells you something or your aunt tells you something, and then it matches kind of like what your parents said, you go, Uncle Joe, he's a pretty smart guy. You know, like Uncle Joe used to have a couple great sayings. One saying was, he says, you know, back in the 60s and 70s, you know, when you used the term bread, it meant money. Like, hey, man, you got some bread? You got, like, you know, some dough? You got some bread? Okay. So Joe says, he says, you're going to find in life, this is a very true saying. He says, life is like a shit sandwich. The more bread you got, the less shit you eat. Okay.
Classic line, Uncle Joe. Everybody's got an Uncle Joe. That's good.
Yeah, life is like a shit sandwich.
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, the more bread you got, the less shit you do eat. Yeah,
that's right.
That's true.
Love that line.
That's true. And another saying that Uncle Joe used to always say is, money talks and shit walks.
Yeah.
So, you know, how do I buy a lot of things? A lot of people today think that you want to leverage everything. Okay, and that's how a lot of these corporate buyouts occur. It's all leverage. I've always been the opposite. I believe kind of like the Warren Buffett school of business. We don't go borrow money. We're sitting on a pile of cash. And I think right now, Berkshire Hathaway is sitting on over $150 billion in cash. Yeah. So they're waiting for the downturn to come. And when the downturn comes, there's always going to be distressed properties. Okay, the building that I have here, okay, I built it brand new, but the land last sold in the mid-aughts for about $5.5 million. I bought it in 2014 for $800,000.
Yeah.
Okay, I had to pay cash. It was an auction.
Yeah.
10% down the day of the sale, full payment within 10 days. Did I get a good buy? Oh, yes, definitely. I bought 45 acres to the north of me. I paid $814,000 cash. Sold it 8 years later for $7.65 million. So money talks, shit walks.
Facts.
So by always having the cash available, and I could go through and give you 20 different car stories where cash bought the car, okay? I always believe in having cash available.
Yeah.
Okay? Because there's always a good buy.
For sure.
Because there's always somebody who's desperate that wants that money right now.
I agree.
And you need to be the person there with the cash to take care of that need.
Yep. I have a client, he's always like, who needs a wire? Who needs a wire? That's what he says. Who needs a wire?
Hey, it's true.
Yeah, that's fact.
It's true.
Yeah, especially when you know that the original price maybe years ago was extremely higher, and now today it's extremely lower. Then you know you kind of, hey, it's gonna go probably likelihood it'll go back to those high prices again. So you're kind of getting a good buy, especially if it's a distressed asset. So.
And I have a friend, okay, who actually lives down in Vero Beach, and his person that he deals with is out of Atlanta, and it's amazing how many celebrity people are in financial binds with their big boats and houses that he's loaning money to at 20 or 25% interest rates secured by the property.
So when you say secured by the property, that's the leverage.
But they need the cash, and I said, you know, what's the, we all met actually on a yacht, and I says, well, how many of those do you actually foreclose on? He says, right now about 10%.
Wow.
Okay. And he says they need money for the stupidest things in the world.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But for them, it's easy come, easy go.
Yeah.
And for him, he's like, hey, 17, 20, 25% interest rate. And every now and then I get a boat.
Yeah.
I get a house.
And it's probably not a little bit of money that they need, that 18,
Oh, it's always in the
20%.
millions.
It's millions. Yeah,
it's always
millions.
in the millions.
It's millions.
It's always in the millions.
You're getting paid or you're getting...
And they need that wire ASAP.
Yeah.
ASAP.
My same client who said who needs a wire, he said, Jesse, he said, you wouldn't believe the people that are calling me asking me for money. You would never believe it. Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
That's very
it's
true.
Crazy, so don't always believe what you see online or the internet with these glitz and glamours and these people. You never know, how deep their pockets really are. So,
often, like I always tell people, on the East Coast, people want to be very flashy, and they're only worth maybe $5 million. Okay, you go out to the heartland of this country, and you'll find people that are worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and they're dressed in Walmart blue jeans. Okay. A regular shirt, they may have a good pair of boots on, okay? And you'd say, he's worth $300 million? No way. Shit, he doesn't even have $100 worth of clothes on.
Right.
Well, that's why he has $300 million.
A penny saved is a penny earned.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, I'll leave the last line for you if there's anything that you'd like to say to, America or the younger generation that you would like to, impact or inspire, leave with some finishing words.
Okay. Couple finishing words. How to be a success in life. I'll tell people today, you don't need to have an excellent education. If you're smart and education and books are your thing, yes, get the best education you can. Go to the top schools. Apply to a top 10 school or a top 20 school. And when you go to school, learn, not just study for tests, but really learn. The second thing is, if you don't like school, learn a trade. Become the best you can at that trade, okay? Get some work experience, whether you have an education or a trade. Work the business for 5 to 7 years. Find out what you love doing and what you excel in, and then start your own business. Because the American dream is still possible. Even though the government has so much bureaucracy they throw in front of you today for regulations, the American dream is still possible. And even with that excellent education or those trade skills, you still have to work. Right. W-O-R-K. And then the other factor I would say is in life, especially when you're younger, trying to grow a business and have a family, and this is Jesse, you need to separate what the difference is between needs and wants. Right. Too many Americans today, they want everything, and they're going to put it on credit. I came from the school of thought that you take care of your needs, and you pay for everything in cash.
Cash, love that.
Okay? You borrow money 2 times in life. Once for your education, and you should pay off your student loans. And secondly, to buy your first home. You don't buy a second home until you can work and save enough money to buy that home and pay for it in cash. Yeah. And if you don't owe any money to anybody, it doesn't take a lot of money to live. Because if you eliminate all your payments that you have every month, you can only eat so much food, Jesse.
That's right. I can eat a lot, but
even though food has gone up in price, it's still a lot cheaper than a house payment would be or a car payment.
Yeah.
So those are my words of advice.
I agree 100%. It's I've learned from you that it's best to pay for everything in cash, and if you can't afford it in cash, then you probably shouldn't buy it. And it's kind of easy to get caught up in playing, wanting to keep up with the Joneses and buy the nice shiny things. And I kind of got caught up in that for a couple months, and then I scratched an itch and I sold it all, and now I'm only solely focused on family and my business, and I just want to grow that as much as I can. So I appreciate all your wisdom and your knowledge and your advice and taking the time today to do this interview. It was awesome. I hope everybody got something out of it. This is Mark Pieloch, owner of the American Muscle Car Museum, and I appreciate it, Mark. Thank you.
And best of success in your life and your business. Thank you.
Best of health, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you.